everyone, welcome back to the homestead. Today is seed starting day for us, which I'm really excited about. It is early February. We've had a lot of rain the past few days, but it looks like today's going to be beautiful and sunny. I hope you guys are getting some sun where you're at and are as excited about spring right around the corner as I am. Before we get to our seed starting process, I wanted to really quickly let you know that the dehydrated zucchini salad topper I made in last week's video turned out great. I was really thankful. Most everyone enjoyed putting some of that on the salad. It gave a nice added crunch and just unique flavor to the salad. So now we have another way to use up our frozen shredded zucchini. Also wanted to share a really quick breakfast idea with you guys. Not everyone in our family is a fan of oatmeal, and oats are just so economical, so I'm trying to find ways to use oats other than in oatmeal. So lately I've been making for breakfast once a week what I call berry crumble, and it's so simple. You just take wild blueberries or organic blueberries, whatever you prefer, put a little bit of water in the bottom of the pan with the blueberries, and then mix in a little bit of arrowroot while it's still cool, some raw honey, you can add collagen powder to give some protein, and a little dash of lemon juice. And I just mix that up until it just barely starts to boil to thicken it a little bit. Then I just pour that into a baking dish, and then to top it, it's so simple. I just mix together some oats, I grate some cold butter into it. I like to use either raw honey or coconut palm sugar, a pinch of salt, and again, some collagen powder for extra protein works well too. So that's just all mixed up and spread over the top, and then bake it in the oven until the crumble gets a little crispy. Super easy, and the whole family really enjoys it. You ready for breakfast?
Yeah. Crumble, please. Thank you.
You're welcome. Enjoy. You changed your clothes, didn't you? Do you like to change your clothes like 5 times a day right now?
Yes.
I know this may seem more like a dessert than a breakfast, but it really doesn't take that much sweetener at all because of the natural sweetness of the blueberries. So I think I actually put more sweetener in our oatmeal when I make it than I do in this dish. All right, so on to seed starting. This year I've done something that I've never done in the past and always kind of wanted to do, and that is get a more accurate plan of how many plants I need to start. In the past I've just kind of started a lot of different seedlings in our greenhouse, and then when it comes planting time I find out I don't have near enough space for all the plants, and sometimes I'm able to give them away, but sometimes they just end up going into the compost. So this year I want to try not to waste, and so what I did is I figured out our big picture plan of how many plants I want to be producing for both humans and for supplementing our animal feed. And then I determined how much grow bed space we actually have, and it worked out to be that we can grow about 25% of our big picture goal based on our current grow bed space for most things. And then there's a few things that we're going to grow more than that, like sweet potatoes, onions, regular potatoes, and a few other things. So I basically just scaled down from our 100% goal to figure out how much we could actually grow with the space we currently have, and I got a more accurate number of what we can plant. So I'm excited this year to have a little bit more organization going into seed starting. So before we could get to the seed starting, I had a job to do. Since it was a rainy day yesterday, I decided to tackle this job, and that was cleaning out our greenhouse. I like to get it cleaned out at the end of the growing season, usually in the fall, so that when it comes springtime, it's just ready to go. And we were able to get it kind of halfway cleaned out in the fall. We were able to clear our shelves, and those were ready. But on top of our IBC water tank that's in there was an absolute disaster. So yesterday I spent some time just getting all of our pots and potting supplies organized, and then I even was able to get all of our starting trays ready for today's planting. I like to use Sun Grow Black Gold seed starting mix. That's worked well for us. I was also able to get started on the setup for Esther's dahlias. We like to start her dahlias in the greenhouse in pots a little bit early, just to kind of give them a jump start and make sure that all the tubers are still good from being stored over winter. So now everything is set and ready to go, and Esther is hoping to help me with that later today once all the chores are done. So I'm looking forward to getting back in the greenhouse once the sun comes up. It's a little chilly still.
Alright guys, we're ready to start the first seeds for this growing season.
We are in zone 6 of the Missouri Ozarks.
The first thing we're going to start is peas, and we're going to be using these a little bit larger pots because peas don't like their roots disturbed, and this will make it easier for transplanting. And one of our favorite varieties is drought-proof Wando.
Esther is hoping to have some of her own annual grow bed space this year. She does have her own garden space, but it's mostly just for perennials. She's really been wanting to grow her own vegetables, so we're going to try and get some beds put together for her to be able to grow some things she wants to grow. We've already pre-moistened the soil, and then we'll water it again once we plant our seeds. I'm going to do 2 in each of these pots. So we're going to bury them down about twice as deep as they are in size. Esther's also going to do is it Sugar Daddy?
Yep.
Sugar Daddy pea. We're not going to be growing a whole lot of peas. We usually just grow a little bit for kind of snacking on because peas really don't do well for us here in our soil. So we're really thankful if we even get a few plants to grow and produce just for some snacking.
But the drought-proof Wando did great for us last year. That's how we're growing again.
So pea seeds are viable for about 2 to 4 years if stored in a nice, cool, dry location. Alright, the second thing we're going to start today is onions. I've started a little bit of onions in the past from seed, and they've done really well for us. But most of the onions I've grown over the past 10 years have been from sets, and then a few times I did get the started plants. So this year I'm going to try and do all of our onions from seed. The goal is to get about 450 onions. So we're going to be growing 4 different varieties this year. Rosa de Milano and Australian Brown from Southern Exposure Seed. Yellow Sweet Spanish from Baker Creek or rareseeds.com. And Patterson from Berlin Seed Company. I have not gotten my Berlin Seed Company order yet, so I won't be able to start the Patterson ones today, but I'm going to start all of the rest. And the way I like to start onions from seed is actually just to spread out all of the seed starting soil into our trays that have holes for drainage. And I'm going to multi-sow them, which means I'm going to plant about 3 seeds per hole, and they'll actually grow together. I know some people like to just do 1 onion and really space them out so you get a lot of giant onions. But I found that the multi-sowing method works really well because you get some large and some more medium to small. And so we'll eat the smaller ones right away, and we'll save the larger ones for long-term storage. It makes it so much faster for transplanting in the spring. It also doesn't take quite as much space to grow the onions. So in the future, when we have more space, we'll probably just do 1 onion and really spread them out so we get a whole lot more large onions. But for now, to save space and time, we're going to multi-sow them in just trays, and then we'll transplant them out in about a month or so into the garden. Onion seeds are one of those that don't last for a long time. They're only viable for about 1 to 2 years. So that's a good one to actually get seeds and share with others, trade back and forth, because often you get a whole lot of onion seeds in one pack, and unless you're going to be growing a lot of onions, you'll end up having leftover seeds that go to waste. Alright, the third thing we're going to start today is cabbage. Last year I trialed a few different varieties, and the top variety by far was Tierra. It's an F1 hybrid from Johnny Seed. And then I also did Golden Acre, which is pretty readily available all over the place. I got ours from Baker Creek. And then Katarina, also an F1 hybrid from Territorial Seed, and that one did pretty well also. And then I'm also going to try 3 new varieties from Berlin Seed Company, so I won't be able to plant those today. I'm still waiting for that order. But those are Golden Cross, Stonehead, and Storage number 4. So I'm hoping to grow a total of about 48 cabbages. I've had the best success doing cabbage in the spring. But if we get our greenhouse done in time, I may do another batch of cabbage in the fall as well. We'll see. And cabbage seeds are viable for about 3 to 5 years. So if you get one package and you're not going to grow a whole lot, one package could last you for a few years. And these seeds are pretty small, so you're just going to make a little hole. You only need to put 1 or 2 seeds per hole. And there is a way that you can do cabbage that it makes it a little simpler for sowing initially. You can just mass sow 1 small pot full, and then once all those sprouts get to be about 1 inch or so tall, then you can gently pull them out and find the little plants with the longest and strongest root, and then transplant those into a little bit bigger pot. That way you're able to get some of the strongest starts for your cabbage plants, which where we live, that makes a big difference because it's difficult for us to get mature cabbage heads before it gets too hot. So starting them early and starting with the strongest little plants is really helpful. Also, I found that quick maturing varieties do best here. So the varieties that I shared with you, Tierra, Golden Acre, Katarina, Gold Cross, and Stonehead are all fairly quick maturing varieties. And this is actually the first year that I'm going to try a slower to mature variety, but it's supposed to be more heat tolerant and it's supposed to be really good for storage. So that's the storage number 4 that I'll be trying for the first time this year.
The last thing we're going to start today is lettuce.
And the varieties that I'm starting today are Landis Winter, which I got from Baker Creek Seed Company, 2 of the Johnny Seed Salanova varieties, which I absolutely love. One is Red Batavia, the other one's Green Sweet Crisp. Of all the lettuces I've grown, the Johnny Salanova varieties have been the best by far. And then the last one I'm going to do is a family favorite we've been growing for years now, called Merlot. Also from Baker Creek Seed Company. The Salanova lettuce varieties from Johnny Seed are very expensive, but definitely worth it. But if you don't want to pay quite that much and still get some really nice lettuce, Landis Winter, Merlot, that I already mentioned, and then there's a couple others that I've grown in the past that I'm hoping to plant in a couple weeks here, and that's Lennox and Yeticule, also both from Baker Creek or rareseeds.com. And lettuce seeds are another variety that are not viable as long as some other seeds. From what I've read, they typically last 1 to 5 years, so who knows. And from my experience, it's been just that. Some of my seeds only last like a year or 2, others last longer, so it kind of just maybe depends on the variety. I'm not sure. So that's another one that you might want to go in with a friend on, so you can get kind of different varieties and share them around with friends. And my favorite way to start lettuces is to just put a whole bunch of seed on the top of about a 2 by 2 inch pot, and then after they've sprouted and are about 1 inch or so tall, just like I mentioned with the cabbage, I do the same thing. You just gently pull out all those little plants, separate them out, find the ones with the best roots, and transplant those into individual pots and let them grow on from there. And spring is definitely the best time for growing lettuce here where we live in Zone 6, Missouri. I have had success growing lettuce in the fall as well, but it's not as nice as the spring lettuce. And I am excited to try a new variety called Sandy from Berlin Seed Company this summer. I'm really hoping that I will be able to grow some summer lettuce that doesn't get bitter and doesn't bolt. So that's a new variety I'm going to be trying this year. And I forgot to mention real quick, the Salanova varieties that I got from Johnny Seed are pelleted seeds, and so I'm not sure if they're going to be viable or not. Typically pelleted seeds don't last as long, so we'll see. I love the varieties so much, I'm going to plant every last one of them and hope that I get a couple.
So with lettuce seed, you kind of surface sow them, so you just sprinkle them on top and maybe rub them into soil a little bit or sprinkle some on top.
Yeah, you just kind of pat them down in. You can put a little light sprinkling of soil on top of them, but they like to have light for germination. So.
Yep.
Are you watching this process?
Yeah.
Learning how to do it?
Yeah.
And I am going to start one more thing today, white pincushion flower. It's a perennial that I've started from seed in the past, and I think I only have one left in the garden. I just didn't put them in a very good location, and it's one I've really enjoyed, so I'm going to try and use up my seeds before they're no longer viable and see if I can get some more of those going in the garden. These are old seeds, so I'm putting a bunch in each hole here. Just hoping some of them are still viable. They're pretty large seeds, so they're going fairly deep. You like helping out in the greenhouse, Abby girl?
Yeah.
The last thing we're going to do is water them.
And then we'll be watching the weather. Once these sprout, if it looks like our temperatures are going to get way below freezing, we'll probably put our little dome covers over the top of these just to make sure that they don't get frosty. This greenhouse doesn't very often frost, so it's really nice. We've got this huge 1,500 gallon tank in here, which really helps to keep a more even temperature in here. So it's been such a blessing to have this space to get our starts going. I got this little waterer from Amazon, and it does a pretty good job. Sometimes it clogs up a little bit and the spray is a little bit harsh, but as long as we keep that end clean, it comes out fairly soft for the little sprouts. And we will obviously come back and water these pretty much daily. If it gets to be really warm in here, we'll have to water them a couple times a day just to make sure they don't dry out. So real quick before we go, for those of you interested in numbers, our big picture goal is to be able to produce about 75% of all of our produce for human consumption for about 15 people, and then about 50% of our feed for our birds as well. And so in my limited 10 years of gardening, just estimates from my experience, I came up with a total annual grow bed square foot number of at least 2,500 square feet. And in this upcoming growing season, we're hoping to have somewhere between 650 and 700 square feet of annual grow space. So we have a lot of other grow beds out there that have perennials and bushes and berries and things like that. But those are the numbers for just the annual production. And I have not yet worked into the big picture flowers. So obviously the perennial flower beds, I have not counted that space, but for all the annual flowers that we plan to grow, I'm just going to be tucking them in amongst all the food for the most part. I hope to expand those numbers in the future when we get to doing more flowers. Esther's got a bunch of dahlias to grow again this year, and we're really hoping to find a better space for her dahlias that drains a little bit better, and we're hoping to get trellises for them as well. So as our homestead and our garden spaces continue to grow, those numbers are probably going to go up to incorporate more varieties and more flowers, things like that.
Big thank you to Ariel for this comfy flannel hoodie.
Yeah, Esther is really loving the flannels these days. It's perfect for when it's still a little bit cold out, but then it warms up in the day, huh?
Yep.
And this one's got a neat hoodie on it. Guys, thanks so much for joining us in the greenhouse today. Super excited to be able to have seeds started. Isn't it fun?
Yeah.
This is such a fun time of year. I want to leave you with a scripture. It's Proverbs 16:9. In his heart a man plans his ways, but Yahweh establishes his steps. So in all of our planning and making preparations for this growing season, my heart is to remember that ultimately the Father knows best, and he sees all the different things that we can't begin to understand or see. He knows how much time we're gonna have. I tend to be the kind of person that likes to plan, and sometimes even put projects above relationships and people, but I don't want to do that. I want to remember that though it's good to plan, ultimately I need to leave it all at the Father's feet and let him direct my steps. And remember that relationships are always more important. So we were trying to hurry this morning, and Abby said, "Why are we hurrying?" It's like, well, there's so much to do. And so already I have to remind myself to slow down, enjoy the people, enjoy the process. And if the plans don't work out exactly as I hope, it's okay, because the Father knows best. So thank you so much, as always, to our patrons who make these videos possible. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. Until next time, we pray blessings over you and yours. And whatever you do, do it with your whole heart.